Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Bulletproof for BJJ podcast. Today, we share with you the BJJ longevity cheat code, the 5 things you need to stay in the game. Now, the first thing is something that you've heard of before, but we are giving you a completely different take, which will change the way you look at BJJ. Number 2, the secret to sharpening your axe, and it's not what you've heard before. So be prepared. Number 3 is what it takes to be a well-maintained, well-oiled ninja on the mats. And it's something that we learnt from someone else. Number 4, what is it about BJJ that keeps us injured? And what can we do to break the cycle to give variety to our training? And number 5, are you doing what it takes to look after yourself? This is the absolute key, and once you know what it is, you can't unsee it, and it'll change your jiu-jitsu longevity forever. Let's get into the episode. If you're loving the episodes, please like, subscribe, and share. The best way that we can reach more good people like you is through word of mouth. So please, share this episode with a friend. The BJJ longevity cheat code. That's what we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have the 5 things you need to stay in the game, happy, healthy, on the path, doing the thing, rolling, killing it.
Number 1, you need bulletproof t-shirts. Number 2,
Number 2,
you need bulletproof water bowl. Number 3,
bulletproof socks.
socks. App.
4, app. 5, the underpants, the deodorant, the nose strips. What is it? No, that's not it. We have talked about many of these things in isolation, and I want to bring them together and make it condensed and just make it simple, because I think oftentimes, we ramble from time to time. Well, I do, at least. Joe pulls us back on track.
No need to respond.
But essentially, if we can give this to you in something that's like short and condensed, you grab it, you're like, yep, got it. Then you can work out, what am I doing? What am I maybe not doing? What am I neglecting?
Yeah.
Because that could be the number 1 unlock for your BJJ longevity.
Oh, yes.
The cheat code.
And we're in the car with you right now. We know
That's
we got
right.
you for like 25, 30 minutes.
Gotcha.
So let's talk about it, man.
Kids have fallen asleep in the back.
Bit of real talk.
Seat. Yeah, let's talk. BJJ folks, we're deep in it, in the brotherhood. So the first one is strength, but probably not for the reason you think. Number 1, strength for BJJ is a form of insurance. This isn't about being buff. This isn't about being strong. It's funny, I had this conversation with somebody about car insurance, and they were saying, I was like, I'm a good driver. I don't need insurance because I'm a bad driver. Like, contrary to popular belief, as risky as I might be, I haven't really had any major accidents in my driving career. But it's not because you're a bad driver. You are insuring against other people's bad driving. Like, you might just be going about your day and then, bam, you just get T-boned by a truck. If you don't have insurance, you're in trouble. You are f***ed. So strength is that insurance. So that if somebody, say you're rolling and a different pair of people comes over and rolls into you and lands on your shoulder or your neck, if your structure is strong and robust, that will often mean it doesn't break. It just bends a bit, which might put you out of whack, but it might mean you avoid surgery. Like there's all these things to make sure that it is really like life insurance.
Yeah, you're mitigating the damages.
That's it. And so in that way, even though there's many folks out there who are like, oh, I don't know, I don't want a gym. I don't identify as a gym bro. Sure. But you're all out here doing the rally driving, so get yourself an insurance policy. That's how I look at strength for people who are they're not invested their character, their ego, their identity in being this big buff person, but they want to keep doing jiu-jitsu. So it's really, really important that you are insuring your body against accidents, because they do happen.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, the big buff people, you guys already know what's up, right? But for those that don't want to be, fuck that, insurance.
But the big buff person is maybe going to smash into you, right? So it's like,
it's a chaotic game, man.
It's crazy.
Like it. I don't know. I think maybe for some people, there's like they have an idealistic view of it. It's like, I'm just going to do the martial art, and the martial art will kind of give me like all the spiritual and physical kind of, development that I need. And it's like, no, it won't, man. Because you're a desk jockey at an office for 10 hours a day.
Not when you've got like a young Gordon Ryan who works on the job site and is punching as much gear as he can. And he's coming through off 6 years of rugby and is like, let's Puritan this motherfucker right up. Bam!
I'm about to get my spiritual development on.
Crank. Yes, sir. So number 2, and I as soon as I wrote this down, I thought of you, Joe.
Oh, wow.
I did. As much as I try my best not to think of you too much, mobility is number 2. And why do I say mobility? Mobility is maintenance. And by maintenance, if people think maintenance, it's not a very, it's not very sexy, but it is sharpening your axe. Now, Joe knows a lot about sharpening things, don't you, Joe?
I'm very into sharpening at the moment.
Please.
I will be forever, I think. Oh, well, I mean, I've always been into blades.
Yes.
Loved knives ever since I was a kid. And
after he stabbed his first preschooler as a 4-year-old. This plastic fork isn't sharp enough.
But then, one thing that's cool about becoming an adult and, like being into cooking and stuff is that it's totally acceptable to be really into knives and like sharpening knives and shit. Yeah. And so it actually started because you got me a beautiful knife right when I received my black belt. Wonderful custom-made chef's knife that JT gave me. It was a beautiful gift. And
Sacred Blades. Shout out, Cam.
Shout out. And it only occurred to me recently, but I was like, the blades, it's dull. Like I sharpen, like I hand sharpen it, but I was like, it's dull. And yeah, of course, I haven't sharpened it for like a couple of years. And so I got the whetstones out in the garage, watched a couple of YouTube videos, and I sharpened all my knives. And I'm like, God damn, this is fun. Yeah, doing the paper test, the thing. Yeah, and I was already into sharpening chisels and shit prior to that. But yes, sharpening blades, grown-ass man, totally into it.
It is. It's a manly thing. And I think the thing for most people, people think of mobility kind of like vegetables. Like, do I have to?
Yeah.
I don't really want to do that. But here's the cool thing. When you get into it, like when you get to enjoy the benefit of a sharp knife, like there's nothing worse than a tool that doesn't work. You get like, you see those big kind of butcher's block, like bunch of knives. You pull them out, you try and chop they're all fucking blunt.
Yeah.
But then there's one sharp knife and you're like, it's such an enjoyable experience. You're like, man, I'll cut every vegetable up. Give me more.
Yeah.
You just start running. You're like Gina Davis in One Kiss Goodnight. You're just like, you throw up the tomato, bang, just stab it through the middle.
That was a great film.
It's incredible film. That scene's great as well.
Yeah.
And then you realize that you're a sleeper agent, assassin, but not to worry. And you've been awoken. Now you must go on a purging rage of revenge. But here's the deal. When you start to enjoy the process of sharpening knives, it's not hard to have sharp knives. And that's the thing. I believe that if you're going to stay in this game a long time, you start to enjoy this process of looking after your shit, because when you go to move, people will compliment you and go, you move really well. Like often with surprise in my case. But it's nice because it feels good to feel fluid and move well without restriction. And then it also feels good to restore it. When you're feeling jacked up and you do some mobility work, you stand up from it. You think, oh fuck, I'm better now. I got right.
Yeah.
That's a healthy feeling.
Yeah. I think even moreover than say what like the compliments or whatever that might come is like,
it's all about the compliments.
It feels great. and when you're like, oh shit, like, wow, I stretched that thing or I did some work on that thing. And now that movement to me feels like lubricated.
Nice.
Feels nice. Yeah. Or my strength training feels good, or, those leg entanglements we're doing, like my hips are cool with it, and I always kind of think that for people, because like it does kind of suck, the idea of doing mobility work or stretching, but when you get that first taste of the benefit, you're like, oh, I can get around this.
It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
And actually it is easier in some regards than lifting, because the best part, you don't usually need anything. Maybe a pole or something, but you don't need machines. You don't have to go to a gym. You can just do it in the living room.
Yeah.
Which is super key.
And you know, if we're like in the context of longevity,
Yes.
I would think that most people who are like who have proven that they have longevity, i.e., they've stuck with jiu-jitsu for like longer than 20 years, and they are, you know, well and truly like grown up now. They are going to have some kind of practice around that. It may not be that they do dedicated like mobility work, but they might be. You might find that they go beach swimming a couple of times a week, and they do a lot of walking, and they, you know, and they, I don't know, maybe they play tennis or some shit. But you're like, okay, you've got stuff built into your life that keeps you lubricated and open, yeah.
And so, well, that leads me to point 3, which is movement. Now, movement is essentially cleaning the instrument. It's kind of the next step on sharpening. And I want to reference, like, you've probably seen it, Joe, but then also you out there listening to this. When someone has an older car, but it's incredibly well maintained.
Oh, yeah, single owner.
Oh, it's like
make an offer.
Some beautiful 1956 kind of some shit, a British car. You don't even know what it is, but you're like, that looks old, but it looks in good condition.
Yeah, someone book a meeting with grandma. We're making an offer.
That's it. Get me that, right? And
got the little Venetian blinds in the back.
Classic. But that's the thing. You can always tell the difference when someone has taken good care of a thing.
Yeah.
And what we did touch on this a week or two ago, where we tend to neglect moving because we're like, I work, I gym, I jiu-jitsu, I'm just on the couch now. Like, fuck that.
Yeah.
Like, just because you do, it is a difficult thing to then think, oh, I've got to now use energy to then do a walk or do a run or ride a bike or whatever. But that said, that movement is really what's going to help flush the blood through your system, get rid of the waste products, and have you feeling better to do the thing you love.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. And
today we're talking about longevity, and you guys know that jiu-jitsu is really hard on the body. One of the things that we talk about today is how looking after yourself and creating healthy habits is central to you staying in the game for a long period of time. Habits is the thing. And this is something that JT and I are really passionate about. And it was a huge consideration for us when we designed the Bulletproof for BJJ app, because we not only wanted to house our programs in an app that was easy to use, simple to navigate, and effective in the results, but we wanted it to help its users create habits for success. And the unique structure we have of the rings that track your mobility and your strength and your jiu-jitsu all in the one place, we believe is key and has actually become an excellent feature in terms of habit development. If you haven't yet tried the app, you need to do it now. You can get a free trial for 2 weeks. All you need to do is go to the App Store, search Bulletproof for BJJ and get your hands on the app. And even better, you're going to get coached by JT and us. So once you start in the app, join the community and let's train together. We'll see you on the inside. Hey, guess what? Bulletproof for BJJ t-shirts are finally available, and this time we've got 2 designs for you guys. We've got the core tee, which is the brand one with the little fist on the front, big fist on the back, and you can get that in a few different colors. And then we've got the limited edition Some Days Pour Harder, which is our core message. This shirt was actually designed specially by one of our listeners over in Europe. You can only get the Some Days Pour Harder shirt in the month of December. Both shirts you can get at fanwear.com.au. That's fanwear.com.au. And then just go to their athlete profiles and find Bulletproof for BJJ, or you can just chuck it into the search box. You will also cop a 10% discount when you bundle 2 or more shirts. So get on there, fanwear.com.au, represent Bulletproof, wear with pride.
I really want to advocate because so many of our jiu-jitsu fam don't do much outside of jiu-jitsu because they just love it so much. So they just do it to death. And I was talking to our man, Big Cash.
Big Cash, back on the program.
He's back.
Yes.
I was hitting him in the messages like, welcome back, homie. He's like, yeah, fucking get this. Am I right? And I was like, yeah, all right. But I was trying to advocate for less lifting. He's like, what are you talking about? I lifting 6 times a week, rolling 6 times. I'm like, bro, trust me when I say this. I hang out with people who are some of the strongest people in Australia, and one of them is one of the strongest people in the world. They don't lift more than 4 times a week. And that's all they do. They don't even do jiu-jitsu. You're doing more than them. It's not necessary. Like, if your intention is to be strong, you actually need to work on the recovery. And Mike Mensa was a huge proponent of, your body is built in the resting. It's not built in the workout. Like, just working out all the time is just the breakdown. If you're not doing something which is helping you replenish, like actively, then you are not restored. Therefore, eventually you're going to go go down.
Yep.
So we want you to obviously just get after it. Some days pull harder, and some days go for a walk, go down the beach, do whatever.
Yeah.
Just do something which is fun, which maybe is not jiu-jitsu or weights.
Yeah, and is movement related.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about it the other day, and I think I posted on my Instagram that I've been walking more recently, and I realized that I've been really sedentary, right? And it's just what happens. And I'm like a movement guy. Like, I got the gym and shit, and it's like, I just think about people who don't work in the field that I work in, or we work in, and don't have the perspectives that we have, and have no idea that they're living, and they've never thought about, am I active or not? And they're probably like, yeah, because I do. I go to the gym a few days a week, and it's like, fuck, nah. It's not about that. It's not about going super hard for 60, 90 minutes each day. It's, you got to move your shit. And it can be so hard to do. Well, as we're having this conversation, I'm thinking about the person that like lives in downtown in an apartment.
Of course.
Living that urban lifestyle.
Yes, sir.
And you're like, fuck, you something like that. Actually, interestingly, when you do live in that life, you often walk more.
Potentially.
You can, right? Because you walk the city.
It's pretty close.
Yeah, it's probably the suburban life.
Maybe suburbs.
Where you start to become more, because it's all car driving, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But in any case, adopting that thing of just like getting on your feet more, getting whatever it is in a pool, in the ocean, like moving it's f***ing key.
And I always think about, there was, when I worked in the Rialto at Fitline.
What's that? What's the Rialto?
The Rialto Towers in Melbourne.
Right.
They were originally the kind of tallest buildings in Melbourne, and they built Eureka Tower, and now they've built something else.
Right on.
But anyway, it was a boutique PT studio in there, and Dan Reedman, who was one of my bosses, he had a book which was like a coffee table book. It was really beautiful. It was black and white photos of older people being healthy. And it had, you would love this joke, it had like an older Chinese woman who was a ballet dancer, and it had her with her foot up against a pole, and she's like leaning in like head to shin.
Wow.
Like standing front split.
Wow.
Like at a bus stop or some shit.
Gangster, yeah.
Yeah, you're like, whoa. And then there was like this older guy who's a surfer. He was 91, standing next to his 7-year-old son.
7-year-old son?
You're like, damn, son, he's active.
Yeah.
This guy got strong swimmers. But it was really interesting. It was these little stories about these people who were healthy and fit later in their lives and why.
Yeah.
And it had their own little personal philosophies in there. And I always think about that person who I feel is like older than me but doing well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, shit, I'd like, as much as I'd like to like be like Bill Murray and just do vodka shots with the Wu-Tang Clan and just live that rock star 7-year-old life. I think who's the gentleman who you caught up, Movement OG, who works with the Budokan, and you caught up with him in ADCC.
Oh, Cameron Shane.
I think of that guy, and
Budokan University.
Full respect to him. I think of him as being an older guy who moves well.
Dude, what is he? Is he in his was he in his 60s?
He'd be edging up on 70 maybe?
Nah, I don't. I can't remember. But
his health is immaculate.
Did you see his comp highlight video for a black belt? Because he got his black belt maybe last year.
Okay.
From Shanji and Solo.
Yeah, awesome.
And then and he's just styling on. I'm
Nice.
like he moves so well.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, like that's just incredible.
It's a testament.
Yeah, like because it's one thing, right, to be, and I think this is maybe for folks, like it's one thing to be strong and to do feats, right? Like say if you follow like stuff that I do, yeah, if you tune in at a certain moment, you can see me do a back bend or a front split or whatever. But that actually doesn't mean much. When you see someone who moves well, i.e. they're agile, they're fluid, they're responsive, you can see that their body doesn't have any there's no lag in it.
Restriction.
That is really impressive. And so, I was watching his and I'm like, man, that's so sick.
It's inspirational in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And it is rooted in movement. He's a movement guy.
Yeah.
You've got to stay moving to stay in the game.
We had drinks together at not last ADCC, but the one
party.
before.
Yeah. I saw him there. Yeah. But no, it was really cool. And the fourth point is something which is, I think, is a problem in BJJ, but is more inbuilt into other sports and other pursuits, which is seasons. And you need a variety of training year round. At the moment, at one stage there used to be like a gi season, and then later in the year there was like no gi season. And so
Cameron Shane is 52.
Oh, sorry. I apologize.
Yeah.
Just because he looks so wise.
Well, he's embraced the grays.
He's got the grays, right? He's got
But dude,
silver fox.
52, that is, you don't just, to qualify what we say, you don't see people moving like that at 52.
Right.
You don't see people moving like that at 40. I'm just crested over 40 now. I'm 41. I'm I'm finding it harder to move.
Yeah.
So it's it's a thing.
Yeah, you got to work hard to get to that kind of level of fluidity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just keep it. To keep that, because it's not like it suddenly happened. That guy's been amazing for a long time.
Yeah.
That consistency. But the variety in the training, so it was interesting to me. I was talking to somebody who does NFL, and he also wrestles, and he does jiu-jitsu, and he is saying that when he's not wrestling, he does football. When he's not doing football, he does wrestling, and they kind of go together. But he's saying, when I'm playing football, I do more running drills. And when I do wrestling, I do more gymnastic drills. And when I do BJJ, I do neither. I was like, God damn it. Shit.
Just slouch around and shit.
Yeah, just lie around on the floor and whatever the And it just occurred to me that his year is broken up into seasons because of organized sport. And that meant he got exposed to varieties of stimulus, right? And one of the biggest problems with jiu-jitsu is we do not have an off-season. And nowadays, people don't even alternate between gi and no gi. I mean, there's plenty of our fam who do bows, but oftentimes people just choose one. I'm a gi guy, or I'm a no gi lady. Okay, and then it's just the same, more of the same all the time. And it's just, do you have a comp? Don't you have a comp? Are you training? That's it. But even if you were to go back and look at bodybuilding, typically, and it was usually seasonal, people would bulk in the winter because you'd less active, you're trying to stay warm, eat a ton of food, stay inside, maybe get hench, lift some hay bales, shovel some snow. And then summer came, you're getting out in the sun, you're getting more active, maybe you're getting to eat some more fruit. It was actually based on the seasons, that there was more exposure to sun, more physical activity, the weather's warmer, blah, blah, blah. We do not have seasons in jiu-jitsu, and this is really artificial, and this is where I wanted to talk about the ebb and flow of life, that just take your life as it is. You try and run it as consistently as you can. And we do get holidays and that's great, but people just try and jam jiu-jitsu into it. And there's no ebb and flow there. It's just no, I must do jiu-jitsu 5 times a week. Doesn't matter how stressful life gets. I have to make it happen. And this is a recipe for quitting. In order for you to stay in the game, one of the most important things you can do is to show up every single time with your maximum energy. Dehydration is going to kill that for you. We want you to progress. We want you to be strong. We want you to be hydrated. And Sodi is your best friend in your mission to be on the mats. With the perfect balance of sodium, potassium, and magnesium, it's going to make sure you're not getting cramps, you're going to be full of energy, and you can roll consistently every single time. Go to Sodi, sodii.com.au and use the code Bulletproof15 to get 15% off and ensure your consistency for the longevity of your BJJ.
Yeah, if you're chasing that kind of free market constant growth,
up and to the right.
Yeah, it's always growth, and anything less than growth is unacceptable. It's it's unsustainable.
Yeah, you're talking to your coach. You're like, do you take Bitcoin? Could I get a direct debit on my overdraft on my Bitcoin? But it's really tough because, and I had said this before, that there is a sweet spot with your training, but also as your life stress changes, I believe you should change your expectation of your jiu-jitsu to keep it going. Like, there's no point beating yourself up being like, yeah, but I'm not training 5 times a week. I'm only training twice a week. Like, I regularly do this because I lament training less jiu-jitsu. But as long as I can do some jiu-jitsu and enjoy it, that's the stage I'm at. That's okay, because I'm not actively trying to push the envelope with any jiu-jitsu skills. I'm just trying to stay in the game.
Yeah.
And really, that's what we're talking about. Whatever level you're at, whether you're a white belt or a black belt, you're just trying to stay in it. Therefore, I feel we accept ebb and flow in work and in everything in life, but not jiu-jitsu. It must be all the time. And I think that this expectation is hurting people's longevity. That's what I'm speaking to there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the an adjacent point to that is like, yeah, if it's absolutely your number one thing and you're like, this is the thing, this is all that matters to me, then, you know, for sure, prioritize it. But even with that said, you still probably want to have a couple of periods of time in the year where you just pull back a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, because you can't, it's like, yeah, you can't just run the car at competition intensity all the time. You have to back that shit off, do a bit of work on it, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
I was thinking about, even with elite grapplers, they actually, like, a lot of them probably benefit because they have competitions that they decide they're going to go for. So I'm doing like Adele, right? It's like, I'm doing who's number one's coming up. Cool. That's that. And then we got next CJR, whatever that's then. And so in a way they kind of periodize based on that.
Yeah.
But for the person that's like trying to get really good at jits, trying to compete a lot, they're probably just doing every comp they can.
Yes.
And that is like awesome and great, but also could probably crush you if you weren't good at managing your shit outside of that.
The difficulty is we are always trying to appeal to our coach, right? Even if your coach doesn't say to you, I expect to see you at every class, and some coaches do, right? I know that, like, Lockie would never say that. But it's like, I look over at Lockie. Hey, Lockie, should I do the Arvo class? He's like, if you want. He definitely wants me to do it. Okay, I'll definitely be there.
Yeah.
He kind of doesn't care, you know, like,
Yeah.
but it's funny how we do these things, like, coach is watching. I've got to be there. I need to get that stripe. Like, it's, the compulsion is very much internal, but we attribute it to,
Coach wants this from
I
me.
can't let the coach down.
That's right. Yeah, no one told you that.
No, coach actually never explicitly said
I mean,
that.
imagine that. Imagine if some coaches gave like awards at the end of the year to students who were like the most consistent. And it was like, you know, this year JT gets the award because he didn't come to class 5 days a week, half of the time, and then none the other times. He came 3 times a week, every week. You know, like we're setting the bar at mid-height, guys. And that would be sick, you know.
It could be good, but it kind of goes against the gym business model.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think on a superficial front, we think that it does. But as we know...
No. Long term.
Yeah, but as we know, like, people crash and burn and they quit. And
Of
it's like...
course, but I believe, you know, we were talking about Pahada, there's this idea of like a full gym, a busy gym's a good gym.
Yeah.
Because that's atmosphere. So if you have new customers come in and
You'll
the
be here
gym's
tomorrow
pumping,
night, right?
Yeah,
Right?
see ya. And tomorrow and day after.
Yeah.
So really, I think the adaptability to accept that there will be times when you can do 5 a weeks, and that's amazing.
5 weeks.
But then there's going to be a time when maybe you're just getting two sessions a week.
Yeah.
But as long as it's keeping you in the game, that's all that matters.
Yeah, it is I do find, and I'm sure listening, you could vibe with this. There's a horrible feeling that comes along with where you are trying to squeeze in like a certain amount of jiu-jitsu. Maybe it's more than before, or maybe it's maintained the same, when you've got these other things that pop up in life that are competing. And it's a horrible feeling of like, you're running around, you're stressed, you're not bringing your best to anything. And I think when you can make that call of like, wait, I can take tonight off.
Yes.
It's going to be okay. You're like, oh, wow.
Relief.
Like
Yeah.
that feels good.
Yeah,
You know?
it's a funny feeling, that the overwhelming sense of pressure release.
Yeah.
Like it's a funny thing. We do it and we just build it up in our own heads.
Did I ever tell you that story about when I missed a grading in Colombia?
No, please.
So I was in Colombia. I was traveling. I'd been what was I at the time? I was blue belt. Yeah, and so I'd gone, as you know, really hard at white belt, really hard at blue belt. Had been really committed to my gym and the team, and competed a lot, and really had felt like it had built up to a point where I'm like, I don't like the pressure that I'm putting on myself at jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
And I took this trip, right? Followed this Brazilian girl that I was dating to Brazil and traveled there, spent some time with her, and then ended up traveling around by myself and ended up in Colombia. And was like, keen to train, right? So I was popping in at places, and I was in Medellin, and I found a gym, and it was a gym run by an American guy named Todd Margolis.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Who's a Lloyd Irvin black belt.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he was a f***ing weapon.
Yeah.
And a really nice guy. And shout out Todd if this gets back to you. He was really lovely and super welcoming. He had this new gym. I think he was pretty fresh in Medellin. And he's like, bro, it's so nice to have someone here that's done a bit of jiu-jitsu because all my guys are just like brand new white belts.
Yeah, right.
And they're all Colombian. He was American. I don't think he got to speak a lot of English.
Sure.
And anyway, he welcomed me in. I rolled that night, had a great time. I remember rolling with him, and all the students sat and watched and were like, oh shit. And Todd just f***ed me up, right? but they were like, we've never seen anyone be able to
do
make
anything.
it hard for him.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh wow, hey, that's cool. Anyway, lovely experience. And he's like, man, I got a guy that wasn't here tonight, but I'm grading him on Friday night or whatever. I'm going to give him his blue belt. It's my first blue belt. He's like, I'd love you to come and be part of the grading. And I was like, yeah, dude, I'd love to. And anyway, the other thing that I was doing in Colombia was a bit of dating, right?
Yeah.
And I was hanging out with this really cool girl, and she said, hey, let's go out. Let's go out.
Friday
and
night.
I'm like, yeah, dude. And she's like, Friday night. And I'm like, I'm in 100%. And then it gets to Friday, and I'm like, oh shit.
no.
I said I'd be at the grading.
Dude.
And I had this this huge,
Conflict.
I'm like, oh my God, I said I'd be there, but she's so hot. I'm leaving next week. Or it's like, I can't miss this. But I'm like, but the grading, I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do.
The conflict.
And so I just went on the date, and it was,
course.
we walked around a shopping center. It was wild.
Time of my life.
But I remember, I can't remember what happened. I think he might have called, and he's like, oh, hey man, are you coming in tonight or something? And I was like, oh no, man, I'm actually on a date. And he's like, oh, okay. I was expecting you. That's a bit disappointing. I was really keen to for you to help grade my guy. And he was just expressing what he felt, you know?
course.
I said I'd be there, and I wasn't.
Yeah.
And I was like, bro, I'm super sorry. And I didn't have, it wasn't the time to explain why.
Yes.
But this whole backstory of
The pressure.
I just came from a couple of years of really,
intense.
kind of making, being a bit toxic about the pressure.
How important it was.
Yeah. And so I was like, and so anyway, it was fine. And we kept touch after that. But I was like, just funny, right? Just kind of an example of how that pressure can build on you sometimes.
Learning jiu-jitsu, it's a long game. And you got to make sure that you are learning off the mats as well as on the mats so that you can succeed. Submeta is the answer to your studying problems. Submeta.io is the ultimate online platform with the most comprehensive set of videos for learning jiu-jitsu from white belt through to black belt with advanced techniques. There's something in there for you. And the key is this, the structure. It is structured in a way that will enable you to engage, but also remember the lessons. Go to submeta.io and use the code Bulletproof16 to get $16 off today and start your learning journey to ensure your longevity. Yeah, and I think how you prioritize can change how you feel about it. So if you have decided, man, I need to prioritize my life, not jiu-jitsu, then that will just be more important. And if you force jiu-jitsu at that time, you may become resentful of it. And vice versa.
Yeah.
I remember that Big Mick and I always used to, back in the day when we lived together, because he and I were both single and we were going through different dating phases, that if we would cancel training for a date, the date would always be disappointing. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if there was no conflict with training, but Mick and I are so like hardcore on jiu-jitsu and weights at that time, if the date conflicted, we'd regularly go, nah, sorry, can't do it, love. Got to go to the gym, got to go jiu-jitsu. But it can go both ways, like depending on what you care about. But there were times when I had cancelled going to like a Friday night open mat, which was barn burner type shit back in Peter DeBean in the day, just wars and epic wars to watch as well, to go on a date. And then maybe you go and then she cancels and then you're at a bar and you miss training. You're like, why did I do it? You know, and so I think, you know, whatever you're prioritizing, you got to stay true to that. Whatever the that is, you know, jiu-jitsu or life, or like whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that brings me to my fifth point, folks, which is going to keep you in the game, which is health. Are you being healthy right now? Now, everyone has different definitions of what healthy is, but we all know certain behaviors are better for us than others, right?
Yeah.
For the best part. We might have a few like weird cultural indentations from our parents where your mum's like, yeah, don't eat the tail off the chicken. It's got a poisonous spike in it. You're like, what? That's not real, is it?
But the ass.
Yeah.
That's the best bit.
I love eating ass.
Yeah.
Man, start with the chicken. It's just the warm up. But here's the thing. Like, really, the reason why I bring up health is because we often do things, and I know I've done this a lot in the past, which helped me be fitter, but wasn't healthy. So, for example, like I found this caffeine gum that the military used to take. It tasted disgusting.
Wow.
Found it online. It's like, 10, 12 years ago. And so I bought a gang of it. And it was disgusting. It was most vile chemical taste. It's basically like chewing pre-workout.
Wow, yeah.
But it got you so wired. And at that time I was running a bunch. So I was like, I don't need food. I'll find a bubbler along the way. I'll just chew this caffeine gum for hours, you know, and it just probably melted my stomach lining as well. But that's the thing, like it was in the name of fitness. And at that time I was just like, I've got to be as fit as possible. And I didn't think about the health. And then not long after, got an injury. And this is the thing we never really think about the downside because in the heat of the moment, we're just trying to get the thing. Are you healthy? And why do I say this? And the metaphor which was taught to me was, I'd heard it about like a tree, and then I'd also heard it about like a building, which was if you think of health as the foundation, the wider the foundation, the higher you can build. And then Joe very succinctly said,
the wider the base, the taller the structure.
Boom. That is exactly right. And if you think of your health as your base, if you're not being healthy,
the bigger the base, I should say.
The bigger the base. If you are not being particularly healthy right now, for various reasons, maybe because you're just working and family and just stress and all the stuff that goes on in life, it will be hard for you to build high. But the expectation is always, I got to go higher and higher and higher. But if the actions you're taking to build higher are shrinking your base, well, then the structure is going to fall down. It will not be secure.
Yeah, I think, I kind of think of it as like not even are you healthy, but like, do you behave like a healthy?
Well, that's,
you know, like, do you, yeah, because your behaviors like are what you become.
Exactly.
And it's like, you know, the things that are healthy, right? We all listen to Huberman or Joe or whoever, but it's like, but it's like sleeping and eating well and hydrating and not doing too much drugs. And
not too much, just enough.
Yeah, do a little bit, you know, not smashing alcohol all the time.
No.
Like just being moderate about that stuff and trying to be really good with like 80% of the stuff.
Sure.
You know, and I just, and you see people that are constantly undermining themselves in that way. And
a Diet Coke with your KFC is not, that's not what we're talking about.
No, that's right. But, you know, but like going to KFC, whatever, once a month because you love it, that's fine.
No, it's whatever.
Yeah, like enjoy that shit, you know. But just like, yeah, like what are you doing? Are you vaping? You're doing a packet of chocolate biscuits every night.
Yeah.
You know, if you got shit like that in your life, you're like, yeah, I don't really need to do that. Because it's not about making like life really boring, right? But it just, like one thing we know is if you overindulge on shit, it's not even fun anymore.
No.
Right? If I drink beers every night, it's not even fun drinking beers.
No.
but for me, like, and this is just my preference, if I drink a beer once a week or a couple times, I'm like, yeah, I'm having a beer. Like, this is super exciting.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
ooh, delicious. Oh man, I'm drunk.
Whoa. Two pot screamer.
Yeah, but you know, like, and so you see with people at training, right? They come in, they got the really good jits, they're pushing hard with that, and then they're like smoking cigarettes after training, or they still don't bring a water bottle, and they're a 28-year-old purple belt, and you're like, mother, like, get your shit together.
Yeah. And I think we all have things that it is difficult to be good at everything. Like, life will always demand more of you in one aspect than in others. But that said, if you can make some of these things default, then it makes life easier because you don't have to think about it. So the drink bottle thing, that's just like a habit, you know? And then also, you know, making sure that you're eating the right amount of everything, whether it's a bit of carbs, bit of fat, bit of protein, like just factoring that in at each meal, then you don't have to think about it. It's very automatic. And you don't want to have to rely on making a decision in the heat of the moment. Because like like I said, I'm very blessed. Shout out to my lovely fiance, Ola, my soon to be wife, my wifey. She cooks like a demon, but even
Sounds like you guys are pretty serious.
Just a bit. Well, she keeps threatening to break it off with me all the time.
Yeah,
She's like,
right.
Nope, I'm not marrying you now. I'm like, babe, I didn't vacuum properly.
Oh, well, fair call.
Jesus Christ.
I didn't want to do it, but I had to do it.
Okay, all right, I guess I'll do it again. But no. I'm very lucky because she will just take over the cooking. She's like, no, I'm doing it. I'm just cooking 5 dishes right now.
Yeah.
And she's unstoppable. When she gets in that mode, get the out her way, she will cut your hand off.
Nice.
Like gladiator-esque, just like jump. So I stay the fuck out the way, but I will do the washing up. But she doesn't want to cook during the week. She's tired, right? So she will typically do it on a day off. So the food is just there.
Yeah.
And you don't want to have to make a health choice when you're tired or you're hungry, or that's when you're going to make a bad decision.
Yeah.
So with the health piece, with your jiu-jitsu, I believe that it's a little bit organizational.
Yeah.
It's just trying to make your life more supportive of jiu-jitsu, because we probably don't appreciate how much jiu-jitsu takes from us in terms of how demanding it is on the bod.
For sure, yeah. But, you know, I would say, like, even for someone who is maybe thinking about say that, like, cooking my own meals and shit, that's a big ask for some people, right?
Yeah, sure.
It might be, hey, instead of going to McDonald's for lunch or the kebab shop, why don't you go to the Thai restaurant where you can get some steamed vegetables with the curry and rice?
Yeah.
You know, or like, instead of having a muffin every morning at the cafe, why don't you get a protein smoothie or an egg sandwich or some shit.
Yeah.
Like little things like that.
Or My Muscle Chef, like a pre-made something.
That's right. You can go to the servo and buy those things now. And, you know, just like the things are there, right? And we're not trying to flip anyone to like become like a health-loving gym rat all of a sudden.
But if you did, you'd benefit.
You would. But it's like if you can look at the longevity thing and realize that, like, the people that consistently make pretty good decisions and have good behaviors are the ones that last.
Yes.
And that means they could last in jiu-jitsu, but they can last in whatever they want.
Anything.
They can explore things, right? Whereas the people that don't, they usually run into a bit of an early end because whatever, injury or illness, something like that. So adopting like increasingly better behaviors is just a really good way to go about becoming that person.
Yeah, and you just have better bandwidth for everything. That's really what it comes down to. Because like we all know what it's like to have a bender of a weekend, no sleep, just be like absolutely running super thin on fumes at work on Monday, and then by the following weekend you're sick. And then you're a write-off. You get nothing done on the weekend, maybe you've got to miss some days of work, and then you're kind of 2 weeks behind because the week that you were come off a bender, you weren't functioning very well, then you got sick, and now that's all backed up. And then all these things compound to make life hard, right? And we like life is hard enough as it is. We want to make it easy for you. So I wanted to do this longevity cheat sheet because I believe if you look at these 5 things, which are strength, mobility, movement, adaptability and variety in your training, and your health, and you can look at those things and go, all right, I'm doing that. No, I'm not doing that. If you can identify what you're not doing or not looking at, just making some small efforts there could be massive leverage. And that can then mean, hey, you're injured less or you're healthier, therefore you're not getting sick as much, and then you're enjoying more jiu-jitsu. And that's really what it's all about. So there it is, folks, the BJJ Longevity cheat sheet. Now, if you're loving the show, we would love you to like and subscribe, but also share this with a mate, because that is the best way that anyone finds out about a podcast, whether it's audio, YouTube. Tell a friend. We appreciate it. We appreciate you.
Peace.